she didn't ever have any trouble sleeping. She actually fell asleep in all sorts of situations, in the middle of a meal. Anytime we got into a car, she was always the first child to sleep, and when you have 3 kids, you're not always so disappointed about that. There's somebody quiet. But when we went to, she was lucky enough to be in full-day kindergarten, right? And it was full-day kindergarten that really sort of tipped, the point where Kate could manage her day, and so we began having these temper tantrums, and it's always hard to figure out, is a kid tired, or there's social issues, and so I told some friends about it, and they all said, oh, kids always have trouble like this, and one day she happened to come home, or she happened to be around when Kate had one of her tantrums, and the mother said, that I don't think is normal. And so Kate really was unable to manage herself completely, and she was maybe 5 and a half, and the hard part is that she didn't really have tonsils that were obviously large. We continued to have challenges, and what I think is also interesting about the story is Kate is dyslexic, so she had a lot of trouble reading, and so it was very hard for me to understand, was the trouble reading because she couldn't sleep or not, and that was kind of how we got involved with that whole sleep clinic, and they were really, really helpful. We did multiple sleep studies.
15.
I think they were only 8, but 15 probably feels like 15. But and so it became very clear that with the tonsils and adenoids out, we did a lot of expansion. Kate started with early intervention, sort of a phase 1. We're really kind of like a phase 4 family. But she had where they expanded her as much as they possibly could, and then once that was done, we would do a repeat study, and she still wasn't able to. She still remained in the moderate range, and then the other things that we saw is, again, her ability to tolerate, and I think memory. So her ability to sort of get through the school day and manage, what has to come with elementary school nowadays. And so with that, we tried the CPAP, but Kate was really great at being able to throw it across the room in the middle of the night. And the other thing she could do is put it onto her forehead and wear it on her forehead so it wouldn't alarm, but we there was no way. And I think they began... it became clear that we were probably going to do an intervention sooner rather than later. And I think the sleep apnea aspect of it, what was really so profound is when we got to the point of where she had the surgery, she's like a different person. And that wasn't that the first person was bad, but it was really just the fact that I think that she's able to participate in regular activities. She can remember things that she learns at school. I think she feels better. And you would say, well, it would also start, you didn't move.
Oh yeah, I was really worried because the couple days after I was fully recovered from lack of sleep and that kind of stuff and recovering from it, I wouldn't move because usually the covers would be completely off the bed, and I'd be on the opposite side of the bed and pillows every which way.
So those were other signs. I mean, really, the restless sleep.
It's affected her sleep positively, and her demeanor and everything else that comes along with getting more sleep, and just for the other kids, they just all look so great now. Beautiful teeth. Should have seen them before.
I figured out I had it when I was 35, and I had a TIA. And when I learned what it was and the symptoms, because I ended up having a hole in my heart and sleep apnea, which gave me the TIA, but when I read about the symptoms and learned about it and I was getting treatment, I realized that my son possibly had it, and I asked then if he did, and he went for his sleep study. But he at the time was very tired, and I'd watch him on the preschool playground, and he looked like he was barely making it through the day, and I couldn't wake him up to get him there, and it was pretty tough. My daughter, she was having huge tantrums, and it did not occur to me to bring her in because she does sleep. I didn't know she was waking up. And we came in one time for something else, and they looked at her breathing, and she was having more difficulty breathing than her brother. And so we started her immediately on treatment, and it was just weeks before a huge difference. Tantrums that were happening constantly all day long were almost non-existent. I grew up having symptoms of ADHD. My life was filled with medication and other kinds of supports, and I'm thankful that I have a breathing machine that helps me